Hello, everyone. Welcome to our second series in the budgeting series. Today, we are going to talk about more about budgeting, but emergency savings. So what does that look like? So I heard that a lot of you got your budget worksheets today. So I'm just going to still encourage you to fill that out, but we will carry over the activity to next week. So fill out that budget sheet according to any income that you're making, or if you want to work with your parents or guardians, or just make up a job, kind of do some research, find out how much your job is or worth, and fill in that budget sheet the best you can. I'm not looking for perfection by any means. It's just more of an activity for you to get used to what budgeting looks like. And then next week we'll go in there and we'll just make some adjustments to that. So today we're going to be talking about emergency savings and what that is. You might hear emergency savings in two different types, and we'll go over what those are. But emergency savings are super important, and I think last year really brought up a lot of why emergency savings is really important, because a lot of people lost their jobs, and emergency savings helps with that. We are going to talk about emergency savings in a very small form. When you're looking at budgeting and looking at planning out for emergencies or expenditures in the rest of your year, emergency savings is really important because things happen, life happens. If you're driving, you pop a tire on these horrible roads that we have in Lincoln, or your windshield breaks because you're behind a plow and a rock hits your windshield. There's various things that can happen that we don't necessarily plan for. But if we had some extra money in our pocket, could we fix that right away? Yeah, we probably could. So we're going to define emergency savings as savings to cover the cost of co-pays. So we're talking about the doctor's office, deductibles, which is what you'd have to pay if you used your car insurance. If you had to make a claim because you got in an accident, you'd still pay a deductible. So that's a small amount. Or just a small emergency. So typically the savings is between $500 and $1,000. Now this seems like a lot. The average American could not cover a $400 emergency if they had it right now. So that means if I walked out the door and I got in a car accident, I couldn't cover $400 of that deductible. So if most Americans can't do that, there's probably a good reason why we should, and why it would be a good thing if you stood out and you were able to cover that. So we have to think ahead of just life happens, and sometimes we need a little extra cash, especially if you're in a situation, even as you get older, that maybe you don't have this financial supports of people around you. Maybe it's your parents or guardians just can't, or you just don't have anybody that can really support you financially. I was in that place when I was a teenager and a young adult until I got married, honestly, where if something happened, I had to cover it for myself. And so had somebody told me to save up an emergency savings, it would have saved me a lot of pain and agony just to have some money in my pocket. So I was just one of those that couldn't call upon anybody to help me financially, and I was just on my own. So this would have been a really great thing to have. Some examples that I gave you, like a flat tire car accident, or even hospitalization. So if you have to go to the hospital, most people have to pay a copay, which means you pay a portion of it right there when you walk in the door, and then your insurance kicks in to help with the rest. So sometimes our copays are $50. They could be up to $150, $200, $300. I know for mine, if I go to the ER, I think I have to pay about $200 just right off the bat. So if I have an emergency savings, I can dip into that and have that cash ready to go if I were to go to the ER. So that's really what it's there for. One of the things when you're determining how much you should save up for an emergency, so at your age, these might not apply, but it's something to think about in the future. Know your deductibles. So when you have car insurance or health insurance, there is what's called a deductible. So that's a portion of that insurance that you will have to pay if you were to use that insurance policy. So if you were to get in a car accident or go to the hospital. And so you need to know what those are. And that usually is a good number of what you should save for in cash. So if I know my car insurance deductible is $1,000. So if I get in a car accident today, I'm responsible for the first $1,000, and then they're going to pay the rest. So I need in my emergency fund $1,000 because I never know if I'm going to get in an accident. But when I do, I'm ready to go with that cash. So that's what I actually have saved in an envelope. I keep it in my safe. It's ready to go. I do not keep it in my bank account. That's just a personal thing. I don't want to know that it's there. I just forget about it, but it's there in case I need it. So that's a good way to figure out how much you should save. So at your age, it may be a little bit less money. So we want to think about if I needed something today, what would be the most amount of money that I would need? It could just be something to help fix your car, or I don't know, a couple $100 sometimes goes a long way with a lot of people. So if we can start saving for emergencies, especially if you are one of those that contributes to your household, so you're working and you're helping your parents or your guardians out, this is a good thing to do, is to have some emergency savings. And then why do you do that? Because we don't plan for accidents. We don't plan for emergencies. We can't predict the future, but it is nice to know that it's covered if something happens. So a good place to start, whatever you can save, save. Okay, if it's $5 today, if it's $10 next month, that's a good place to start because every little bit goes a long way. A lot of people, to save $1,000 just seems like it's mind blowing. It's a lot of money. I get that. Even $500 could be a lot of money, but every little bit counts, especially if you have bills to pay, just to have something in your account that could help you if something were to happen. So last year, a lot of people lost their jobs or they were furloughed. So they didn't lose their job, but they weren't getting paid until they came back to work. So they still had employment, but they weren't working. And so this emergency fund goes a long way. If something were to happen or they needed help paying their rent or mortgage, this is a good place to dip into savings. So wherever you can start, I would encourage you to do so. And I would also encourage you to start saving now. Y'all are young, which is great. Get in the habit of saving. Even if you don't need it for emergencies right now, start saving, because the habits you form now when you're starting to work will carry over. And I can't tell you how many times in my 20s I thought, man, if I only had savings, or, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And if somebody would have just told me, when I didn't have bills, when I was just working to spend money in my teenagers, if they would have said, man, you're going to need a couple $1,000s in your 20s just for emergencies, would I have listened? I don't know. But man, I wish I would have. I wish I would have had that savings. So get in the habit now. They say it takes 30 days to build a habit. It takes 90 days to keep it. So if you could do something for 90 days, or if every paycheck, for the next 3 months, if you put a couple dollars aside into an envelope or another savings account or something like that, you'll get in the habit of doing that. And I can probably guarantee you won't regret having savings at any point in your life. So it might be hard to save it now, but you likely will not regret it because you'll have it at another time when you need it. My dad used to tell me when I started working, he'd go, put $5 away. Every $5 counts. And I just absolutely ignored him. But then I went to college and was on my own. I've always had to pay my way. My parents couldn't help because there was a lot of kids. There was a lot of us. And I wish that I would have listened to that $5 when I could, savings type situation. So I would encourage you, especially if you don't have bills right now, but you have an income, you're working, have some side hustles, this is a great time to start building up your savings for when you do go off to college or when you want to buy something, you have that available to you. And you're getting into the habit of saving, because that's going to be really, really key when you are older. Once you build up your savings goals, whatever that may be, I usually tell people $1,000, but I'm usually working with adults that have careers and built like mortgages and car payments and things like that. So $1,000 is typically what we save for. But whatever the number that you decide that you want to reach, once you hit that, what do you do with this goal? So let's say your goal is 1,000 and you've saved it up. What do you do? Well, don't spend it. It is not there to just go to the mall and go spend. It's not there to just use. It's there for emergencies. So we kind of just need to forget about it. We need to forget it's there. That's why I always suggest put it in an envelope, put it in a savings account that you don't use. Like you can open up another savings account and just let that sit there. But don't account for it in your budget. Don't think, oh, I have $1,000 in my bank account, because you don't. It's there for emergencies only, and you're going to want to hang on to that. So if you have $2,000 in your account, you really only have $1,000 to spend, because 1,000 of that is your emergency savings. Keep it somewhere where it's safe but accessible. So that means if you needed it today, do you have access to it? So you don't want to invest this money necessarily, because you want to be able to use it if there was an accident or an emergency. So for me, like I said, I keep it in an envelope, but I keep it locked up in my safe. So I know that it's there and it's all in cash. So I know that it's there for me to get to if I needed it. I've thought about putting in a separate bank account. I do have an extra savings account that I don't really use at a bank that I don't really use. It's just a side thing that I had to put some savings. And so I thought about putting my emergency fund in there. But I think for me, mentally, I'll know it's there and I'll try to spend it. So it's just better for me not to see that number on my bank statements. It's just in my safe. And then only use it for an emergency. So one of the questions I get asked is, okay, so I have $1,000 and I had an emergency and I had to use my $1,000. What now? Now I don't have an emergency fund. So you're going to start the process all over again. You're going to start building that back up. Say you only needed 400 of it. Start building back up that $400, that $400 savings. So whatever you use, we're going to want to put it back eventually. But again, that could be slow and steady, putting $5 here, $10 here, just when you can. But that's what it's there for. And wouldn't you be excited if you didn't have to pay something out of pocket or find a loan or use a credit card or ask someone for money when you had an emergency, because you could cover it. So I feel like that's the ultimate adult goal right there, is to be able to cover your expenses when you need to. And so if you practice that while you're still in the learning stages and you're still in high school and things like that, a young adult in college, it's a good thing to learn early and just get in the habit of doing. Does anybody have questions about emergency savings? Anybody? Okay. Feel free to put questions in the chat box too, or comments. I love those. I love when people interact with me. So I see some of you on camera, which I love, but feel free to have a conversation with me, because I don't want to just talk the whole time. That gets boring after a while. So feel free to chime in. Okay, well, let's move on to our next subject here, and that's called proactive budgeting. I'll ask you to answer this. What is proactive budgeting? Can anyone tell me that? Put it in the chat box. What do you think that is? What does being proactive mean?
Anyone? Come on, you guys are all very smart. I know you probably can help answer the question.
And there's a lot of you on the call. So like actively using money. Okay. Not quite, but you're getting there. That was a good one. Anybody else? To be proactive about something. Okay, well, I guess we're all going to have something to learn today, which is exciting. So proactive. So proactive budgeting is the practice of creating and following a budget in order to plan ahead. So being proactive means planning ahead, thinking ahead, doing something ahead of time. And so what we're going to do is we're going to learn how to be proactive within our budgets to plan ahead for future expenses. So again, this is a little bit beyond your age, but that's okay. Let's learn how to do it now so that you can do it later on when you have more expenses. Now, that's not to say some of you don't need to do this already or aren't doing it, but this is really just thinking ahead for expenses that you may have later. So I'm just going to go by examples and what this means. So a lot of times there's expenses throughout the year that we don't think about. We spend money sporadically throughout the year and we kind of forget that we do that. So car registration is one of those. If you have a car, you have to register it every year. And It's the same month every year, but it is one of those bills that people always forget about. And then we get the notice in the mail the month before and we go, oh my gosh, where am I going to get $350, $400? The first time I had to register my car, it was a newer car. It was $700. $700. And that is something that had I known, I could have been, well, I was saving all year. I had just guessed how much I needed. And I was a little bit off, but I wasn't too far off. But $700 or even $350, that's a lot of money to just come up with. And so if we can think ahead, every July, I have to pay my car registration. It goes down every year, but if we can plan for what we paid last year, maybe we'll come out ahead. So what we do is we look at that expense and we say, okay, for this example, my car registration is going to cost me $350. Okay. If I start saving for it right after I pay it, then I have 12 months to save for that car registration because I don't have to do it till next year. So we're going to divide $350 by 12 months, which means I need to save $29 a month. And if I could just put away $29 a month into a separate savings, maybe it's an envelope, then by the time my car registration comes around the next year, I have $350 and I don't have to pull anything out of my pocket. I don't have to put it on my credit card. I don't have to borrow it. It's ready to go. So this happened to me. I didn't know how much I needed to save, but I saved up about $600 during that year. I got the bill for $700, but I was so relieved that I only had to come up with $100. Like that was way better than coming up with $700. So I just had to take a guess, but now I know what it's going to be like the next year. So that's a good example of a bill that we really forget about. And if you're getting to the stage where you're about to buy a car or you just bought a car or it's coming soon, this is one of those bills that you should really account for because it's always a couple $100. Like it's usually a lot of money that most people don't just have. So plan ahead for it. Now, if I had to pay my car insurance or my car registration in July and it's almost February, I would just divide that up. So February, March, April, May, June, July. So I have 6 months. So then $350 divided by 6, that's a little over $50 a month that I would save. So I could start saving now for July. So we could do that at any point. We could be proactive and think ahead if we have a bill that we know is coming up. So here's another example. Excuse me. Your kids' baseball team dues are paid in June and it's December now. Dues are $200. So we have between December and June to come up with $200. So we have 6 months, 200 divided by 6, it's $33 a month. I'm going to just pay $33 a month into my envelope or my savings, and I'm going to save for that so that I don't have to come up with $200 later on. So if you're one of those that is in extracurriculars or something like that, and you're paying for that, just think ahead. When are they due? I know, different sports come at different times of year. How much money would you need to save in order to have the cash for that when it comes up? Because saving a little bit now is much better than coming up with a lot of money later. So here's another example, especially if you're in college or getting there. School starts in August and you'd like to pay tuition in full. So you don't want to take out student loans. It's January now. So this is kind of like our situation now. Tuition will cost $1,140. So I have 8 months until school starts, until I have to pay this bill. So $1,140 divided by 8, which is $142.50 per month. So if I just started saving now, I only have to come up with, $143 to put away for my tuition now. And that seems a lot more tangible than coming up with $1,100 later. So if you know what those bills are ahead of time or those expenses, start saving right away. And then our last one, you're going to need a new car soon. You don't need it right now. You're okay, but you'd like to save for a down payment. So for those of you that are going to be driving soon or are driving, but you're saving for a car, this is your example. So it's February and you'd like to buy a car by August. Your down payment will be $2,000. And just know if you do buy a car, you'll have to pay taxes and registration. So you're going to have to pay extra for that, not just your down payment. But let's just say it's all $2,000. So you have February to August, that's 7 months. So if you divided that up, you'd only have to pay $286. You not pay, but you're going to save $286 a month. So if you start doing that now, then you only have to save a little bit now to have a lot later. So that's what we call proactive budgeting. It's looking ahead. What am I saving for? And can I chop that up on monthly to save monthly rather than waiting until the bill comes and I have to pay this massive amount of money? It's something I try to do with my bills. I look ahead at things like Christmas time and traveling because all my family lives out of the state. And so at Thanksgiving or Christmas, I will likely go out of state. And so I fly somewhere, and me and my son. And so I need to know that I have enough money to buy the flights because I'll probably buy the flights in August. So I try to budget for how much do I need to save every month. So I'm ready to go with $500 to buy my flights. But I save for gifts for Christmas time, for my son's birthday. I put money away every month. We like to take a vacation in the summer. And so I try to save for that. So there's things, my car registration. So there's various things that I save up for every month, but I just put it in an envelope and I save it for when I need it. So I do have a travel budget, a gift budget. I call it a weekend budget. So for my son, because he's 3, so we do a lot of activities outside of the home on the weekend. So I just actually just save up a little bit every month in case we want to get a zoo membership or we want to go somewhere in Omaha and have some fun some weekend. So I put a little bit away just so that we have that cash ready to go when it's time to do that. And that makes it so that I don't have to come up with this cash. It's already there. So that's called being proactive budgeting. There's also some perks to proactive budgeting, and this is one of them. There's a lot of benefits to this, but car insurance, when you're paying for that, they will give you a discount if you pay for 6 months all at once. So if you're saving for 6 months for the next 6 months, you actually get a discount. So you're going to save some extra money. When you use cash, so if you come to the table with cash, especially if you're buying a car, or I've heard this happen with appliances, so really expensive things, you can actually negotiate the price down. We have done this with buying new tires because they don't have to pay a fee if you're using a credit card. They just can put the cash in their pocket. And so that's actually saving them money. So there are places that you can negotiate just by having cash. So if you know you're going to need new tires, or if you know you're going to need something, save up for it and then try to negotiate. So offer a little bit less and see if they'll do it because it's cash. And a lot of places, a lot of stores do that anyway. If you just say, do you have a cash discount? A lot of times they'll give you a decent percentage off because you're saving them money by using cash. Saving like this proactively allows you control of your own budget rather than dipping into savings. So we have that emergency fund there, but I don't want to use my emergency fund for my car registration if I know that I have to pay this every year. So why not just save it now? And then I don't have to tap into my emergency fund and build that back up. So it gives me more control if I'm thinking ahead of time at what I need to spend my money on. So that's proactive budgeting in a nutshell. So I want to ask a couple questions. For those of you who are working on your budget or even are actively involved in budget planning for your family, or you contribute to your family's finances, I want to know just some ideas about, if you were to save up an emergency fund, how much would you save right now? Like, what is a comfortable number for some of you to save up if you had to, or if you're going to? So for an emergency, especially at your age. So this is a different conversation because a lot of you aren't paying a mortgage or a car payment or, school bills and things like that. But what would be a comfortable number? $3,000. Okay. That's a lot. And that's awesome. If that's a comfortable, that I worked with somebody for financial coaching that he and his wife that had a huge number that he wanted to save because it gave them peace of mind. Like it was just, if it's there, then I can sleep better at night. So 3,000 is one of those numbers. Anybody else? 850. Okay. That's a good number right there in between 500 and 1,000. That's typically what people need for deductibles and car insurance situations, things like that. So that's great. That's a really great number. Anybody else? If all else, if you can't think of a number, 400 is a really great number. $400 will likely get you tires on your car and fix your windshield. And right now with our weather, that's what you got to think about is that windshield. But there's a lot of car accidents that happen too with our weather the way it is. So deductibles are really something to think about if you're driving. So, okay. So what proactive savings should we add? So this is something I want you to consider as you're making your budget. Is there anything that you should probably be saving for? I want you to put it on your budget, and I want you to divide up the months until you need to spend that money. So if you can't think of anything, just put Christmas gifts on there. Think about, I want to have $200 to buy some Christmas gifts. So you have a solid 11 months to come up with that money. So 200 divided by 11, that's your number that you need to save monthly. So I want you guys to put that on your budget, just so you can be thinking that way. If I'm gonna do something proactively. If you do have a car and you're in charge of registering it, that's a good one. You should have that on there anyway. If you're paying your car insurance and you paid in full, put that on there. So there are things that if you are paying your own bills, that would be really good to have on your budget right now. But if nothing else, put some Christmas gifts on there and make up a number of what you'd like to have. And then how much a month would that be adding to our budget? So if you are doing a $200 Christmas gift savings and you're dividing that up by 11 months, I'm just going to get you the exact amount here. That's $18.18. So that would increase your monthly budget by $18. So it's really not that much to think, man, I could have $200 to buy gifts with by December. So that is something I want you to look at how it's going to increase your budget, but probably not by very much because it's the beginning of the year. So it gives us an opportunity to save for a longer period of time. So you got your budget worksheets today. Fill that out the best you can, but think of some situations that you have to be proactive about. And then also I want you to add in your emergency savings. So think of a goal. I want to save $850 for my emergency fund, but I want to do it by December. So you're going to do $850 divided by 11 months. And then that's how much you need to add to your emergency savings. So that's $77 a month. So add emergency savings to your budget too, because that is definitely a part of the process. So I just want to let you know, especially because of your age, we do at UBT have accounts that you can open at your age. You just have to have a parent or guardian sign off for you. So if you are looking to start saving money in an account, you absolutely have the opportunity to do that at UBT. It's not my big plug for UBT. I just work there. I'm not trying to talk you into savings account, but if you are looking to do that, especially because we're talking savings, let me know. Oh, somebody said they have an account at UBT. Awesome.
Oh, good.
Our app is really easy to use, and we also have a budgeting option on our app. So if you are looking to transfer your written budget into an app, we do have that option, which is really nice to do that. It's called Compass. So yeah, so that's all I've got for you if there's no other questions.
That was great. I like that. I actually learned a few things.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's always a goal.
I actually have been saving. I have a savings account that I started when I was 12 years old.
Oh my gosh.
That I put $5 in when I was 12. I put $5 in each month, and I've been putting maybe 10 or not even that much. It's just a habit that I got into.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But that was 40 something years ago.
But it's stuck.
And it's
probably a really good savings.
Yeah. It's got a nice dollar amount in it. But yeah. And it's not my savings or anything like that. It was just that it's just a
little bit here and there.
Mm-hmm. Someday I'll take myself to Fiji.
There you go. I've been doing that for my son. I've been putting in $25 a month into an account. And I've done the math, so by the time he goes to college, how much he would have. So that was just something that I wanted to start for him, but I want to teach him to do that too. And for our older son that we adopted, he was 15. We started that with him too, where he was supposed to put money away every week or every payday, just to get into the habit of doing it. So that was something that we started really early. Even when we just gave him allowance, he still had to put some of it away for savings. So it's a good habit to form, even if it is just $5. Every little bit counts.
It's a great habit. It really is. So,
Mhm.
okay.
All
Well,
right.
so then we're meeting again, ladies, next Wednesday
Mhm.
at 4:30, same time.
Yep. And bring those budgets with you. We'll
Yeah.
talk about those and be prepared to talk because we're gonna discuss, if you had any hiccups or maybe I would love to hear from someone who made up a career and made up a budget. I would love to see how that works. Because I'm sure there's someone out there that's going to give themselves a salary of $1 million, so money won't be tight. But let's talk about it for sure. So I'm excited for that.
Okay. All right. Well, Caitlin, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I hope you have a nice weekend.
Yeah. Thank you. I hope
And
everybody stays warm and can get outdoors this weekend if it's not
yeah.
snowing.
And y'all have a good day at school tomorrow.